Welcome to Bungalows for Bachelors, Episode 1 bonus content. Today, I am going to be giving you some detailed information on exactly what I did to prepare to develop this lot. Alright, so the first thing we got to figure out when we are next to any body of water is our property going to flood? We don't want it to flood, so let's check. Now, we are going to go to the FEMA maps somehow. In this case, I had to use a different map than I normally would, but I was able to find the proper data using this particular map. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it and take a look at our property and see if the body of water we are near is going to be causing us a problem. Now, the thing we are trying to check is if we have a 1% chance of flood. That is a theoretical every 100 years there'll be a storm this big idea. And that's going to tell us how likely it is that our property is going to have a flooding problem. If we are within the 100-year floodplain, that's a bad thing. We don't want to be in that spot. So I checked this before I even approached the property, but this is where I found the information. And this is how I knew that I'd be okay. The property we are considering is not in this purple area. So we're going to be fine. The other thing to look at here is you can read these topographic lines. Every line is 10 feet. We are trying to see, if it does get a 100-year flood, how high are we above that mark? And we can kind of get an idea. In this case, we're like 20, 30, maybe 40 feet, depending on where we are in the lot. So that's what we're checking out here. Next on the list is to figure out what the address is going to be. Now, there is no current address on this lot, and I don't get to decide what the address is actually going to be, so I'm going to look up the county addressing system. I just Googled it, and it took me here. In this case, the county is fairly small, so I am going to just contact the person at this website with this contact information, and basically I just, once the lot is owned by me, I can request an address, and they will give me one, and I can move forward from there. Now, I'd like to have some internet on my property, so I need to figure out who's going to provide that. And I did that simply in this case by Googling it, found a website. I did not want any DSL internet, so I figured Optimum was the way to go. I also don't want satellite. So I went to Optimum's website and was pretty much unable to find any information on their website about getting hooked up or anything like that. It's mostly just, regular internet stuff. So I'm gonna have to call somebody most likely to learn more about that, but that's that. I was so lucky as to have been given the provider of electricity by the seller on their website. So I went straight to their website to see what I could dig up on what I could connect with and what information I could get on their website. So I went to poke around and couldn't find anything at first, but stumbled upon a building services and standards piece where I got all kinds of links to information on how to request service and what information they need. And of course, at the bottom of the service request, it tells them, okay, what exactly do I need to do before I request service as someone who's building on here? And that was super helpful. So I kept looking. There's a booklet in here about all of their requirements, their instructions on basically how to set up everything to work with them. It applies to residential and commercial stuff, but pick out what you need to know. And of course, I am interested in underground work, and I will need some temporary power to build stuff. So this schematic gives me a perfect example of what exactly I need to build so that I am allowed to connect to their power and they can just connect to the pole that I set up. So all this information is right on their website, and if you dig around, you can find all kinds of stuff. The same thing that I did with the electrical stuff, I did with the water stuff as well. I was given the water supplier by the seller, so I looked them up online and started poking around. I was directed from the new service request to open up this service application document, so I decided to try to find that. That's probably a form. So I found the form and opened it up, and sure enough, I got all kinds of information. I got how much this thing is going to cost, who's going to connect it and when, and all the information on connecting here. The forms I got assigned to fill out. This is all free information just posted on their website. And once I had all this information put together, I started to think about what I am actually going to do on this lot and made a little plan with a little bit of money involved. I'm going to need to build a shed, so I looked at the cost of a foundation for a shed if it was a slab, and I decided that for the purposes of what I'm doing, I'd rather just get a cheap floor for this one and not worry too much about the soil movement for just a shed. The shed price was pretty reasonable with a floor, so that's what I'm going to go with. I don't want a super fancy one. I'd rather have the money go towards the stuff I'm building afterwards. So moved on to that. And then of course I used AutoCAD to draw a whole lot of details and stuff so I can get some good quantities on the shed and know what I'm doing and know exactly what I'm going to build and just help make things more accurate. I decided I'm going to try to do this little detail where I keep the wood off the ground by using rods embedded in concrete with some threaded rod, and we'll see if that works. That includes the preparatory work that I've done at this point. Now I've just got to wait for the sale to go through and everything to line up with my scheduling so we can get started and build some stuff. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm excited to share the journey with you guys.